Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Weather with Sim forecast. And in today's forecast, we're going to be talking about another large storm that's going to be coming to the United States over the next few days. And these are going to bring some impacts, as not only are we anticipating the potential for some severe weather across areas in the Ohio Valley and Mid-Atlantic, but once we even get into the end of this week and even towards the month of May, this is when we're going to be seeing potentially a long stretch of severe weather where we see at least some sort of severe weather threat every day, which would definitely cause some major problems. And then we would also be talking about how much rainfall we could see, which may also lead to some flash flooding, and we will talk about why. And then we may also see an upgrade to an enhanced risk with some of these storms, which we will also talk about why in today's forecast. Let's first start off by going over today, and you guys can see that we do have a slight risk level 2 out of 5 threat for some severe weather across areas in northern and eastern Kentucky, southern parts there of Ohio, a pretty large portion there of West Virginia, if why not the entire state, northern portions there of the state of Virginia, and as well as areas over here towards western Maryland, and as well as certain portions there of Pennsylvania will all be under the gun for potentially severe weather for today, as one of the things that we are keeping an eye on, guys, is the tornado threat. We do have ourselves a 5% risk for a few tornadoes, especially across Charleston, Huntington, even up there towards Clarksburg, Elkins. You guys need to make sure you guys got your tornado action plan in place just in case, as we will likely see a few tornadoes for today. We also got ourselves a pretty large area that could see some damaging winds and even large hail. I think damaging winds and large hail will probably be the main concern since it even includes a larger area, but like I said, I am really concerned about the tornado threat for today, and we will talk about this in just a second, but I would not roll out maybe a small 10% risk for a tornado or two getting issued somewhere in this area, and like I said, we will be talking about why in just a little bit. And then if we look at tomorrow, no severe thunderstorms expected, and neither is any severe thunderstorms expected as we get into the day after tomorrow, which will be for your Wednesday. But if we look at the future, you guys can see that for Thursday, we do have a small area up here towards Iowa, eastern Nebraska, and as well as northern Missouri, where we are expecting the potential for some pretty large severe weather. But even as we get into day 5, this is when it really starts to expand, as areas from Abilene, Texas, all the way up there towards Detroit, Michigan, will all be under the gun for severe weather. And depending on what this looks like, this may be one of our biggest severe weather events of the year so far from size, because like I said, this includes areas from Texas all the way up to Michigan, and I'm still anticipating this to potentially expand well to the east and maybe even a little farther back out to the west, to where this may be a large area. But for right now, we're mainly talking about areas in between the areas that I just circled, so you guys really need to make sure you guys are paying attention if you guys do live from Texas all the way up there towards Detroit, or even areas in between. If we look at why we are seeing severe weather for today by looking at the NAM model really shows those significant tornado parameters even on the higher side of things, guys. This would be enough to maybe cause a small upgrade to a 10% risk for a tornado. It's not likely that we would see a strong tornado today, but it would definitely be something to keep an eye on closely, as some of these significant tornado parameters even get as high as, a level 4 out of 10 on the significant tornado parameter scale. So we really need you guys to be paying attention with this storm, as I do think it will definitely bring a lot of impacts for today. But if we compare that to the ARRR model, maybe not nearly as intense, but if we select one of its farther runs, which would be one of the runs that goes 48 hours out or more, I just gotta go back a couple runs to see that, but it shows a lot weaker tornado parameters compared to the NAM model, but still shows some areas potentially seeing the potential potential for maybe a strong tornado or two, so we will keep an eye on that closely, but it doesn't look like the chances of getting upgraded are high, but we will definitely keep an eye on it closely. And if we look at why we are really concerned about maybe seeing an upgrade to an enhanced risk, maybe with even one of the storms that we're likely going to see even as we get into the end of this week, you guys can see that for Thursday this week, we do have a risk for some severe thunderstorms across areas over here across parts there of Iowa, and the Colorado State University is saying that we could see an enhanced risk get issued across that area, so that will be something to keep an eye on closely. Once we get into Friday, this is when I think we'll see a much larger severe weather event, and I also think we could also be talking about the potential for even an upgrade to an enhanced risk. And it is kind of, weird, at least from my opinion. I think it's a little weird how the Colorado State University has that enhanced risk a little farther to the north, and we will talk about why it shows that, but I think the better chances of maybe an enhanced risk gain issue would be well down there towards Texas, so we will keep an eye on that closely, as we could definitely be seeing even significant severe weather as far down south as those areas in the plains as well. And then once we head a little farther out, it does get more uncertain, but I do expect the large stretch of severe weather to continue, as we got severe weather ongoing for Saturday, Sunday, and as well as even into Monday, which will be as we get into next week. And then if we go over the future, radar, at least with the European model, you guys can see that the storms that we will likely be tracking would be the ones that would, most likely produce severe weather, especially once we get into the end of this week, where once again, we're going to have this we're talking a large area of potential severe weather heading from Texas all the way up there into Detroit, Michigan, as you can see, with very high cape around, which could cause some pretty big issues. And what's even more crazy is that if you look at the rain, look at this, guys, we're going to have continuous rainfall ongoing across the lower Ohio Valley, kind of like what we saw a couple weeks ago. And with all that continuous rainfall, that may lead to maybe a couple inches of rainfall from Oklahoma all the way over there towards West Virginia. So that is something to really keep an eye on closely, as I am anticipating this to potentially bring training showers and thunderstorms over the same areas, which may even lead to rainfall totals potentially over 8 inches in some areas. So we really need to keep an eye on this, guys. This is probably going to be a very active pattern, especially once we reach the end of this month. And just to be honest with you guys, this may even bring worse flooding than what we saw over the past few weeks. So this is something to really get prepared for, as this weather pattern is also very unusual because we don't typically see this much rainfall in 1 month, so it's definitely not good news. But thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so that way you guys don't miss out on any future videos or live streams on this channel, and make sure to turn on all notifications for if and when we do go live, especially if we see a lot of tornado warnings pop up today, which I do think is a possibility by this point. So consider hitting that notification bell, and also consider hitting that subscribe button, as I really do appreciate it, you all. And I hope you guys all have a great rest of your Monday out there, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Thank you all so much for watching, and goodbye.